Hello, everyone. This is Christy. Welcome to Let's Talk Dollitics. I'm going to give you a brief explanation about this series. So, my channel is AG Takes Over. I typically bring you lighthearted content, anything related to American Girl dolls. Sometimes that's stuff I've bought for them, stuff I've made for them. Kind of chatty videos talking about what my goals are or how I talk to people, what life is like as an adult collector. Anything and everything showing you my doll spaces, how to organize them, how I budget for my dolls, different products that I find, dressing them, creating new and unique outfits for them, reviewing products that I come across. All of this stuff is generally, I'm going to say quality content and also pretty lighthearted. So when you're having a heavy day, it is a nice place to come and escape, right? And I want this channel to continue to be that for people who need that. And we all need that from time to time. However, the world is a very dark place right now, especially in the United States. So I noticed that my own fears and frustrations and the primacy of the world's events in my mind was showing up in my videos, which is fine. I worried that it was going to make it too unpredictable for you all to know. Is Christy putting out a video that is an escape or that's going to be a rough one? So I've come up with what I hope will be a nice solution for everyone. I usually do 2 videos a week. I'm going to stick with that posting schedule. That's the game plan anyway. And one will be my typical stuff. My views are evident, but they're not the center. It is much more doll-focused content. And then this new series, it's clearly labeled. It says, Let's Talk Dollitics. Watch it when you're in the headspace to watch it. And I do hope you will watch it because I'm going to follow a format that's really predictable and I think will help keep people from feeling quite so overwhelmed and hopeless and helpless. So basically 7 pieces to this. One is this intro. You're going to learn to skip ahead to the timestamp I'll put on the screen here. And so if you're watching this every single week, just skip. The first part is going to be recurring because I want to explain the series to people who might be watching for the first time. Second, an image or a quote that might be a little bit alarming or jarring, but that's going to serve as the intro to that particular week's topic. Third, some background information and updates about that particular topic. And I will try to include some additional reading or video links in the description, so be sure to always check there. Fourth, an inspiring or hopeful quote that is relevant to that week's topic. 5, some specific doable action steps related to the topic, and there should be enough of them that even though you can't do all of them, you should at least be able to pick one, hopefully multiple. 6th, some good news. Possibly not even related to the topic of that week. I just want to end on a note of not absolutely everything is awful. Even in the midst of really scary stuff, there are creative, kind, compassionate people doing just very cool things that we should know about and we should share about. And then 7th will be probably I will dress a doll each week, and at the end I'll just show you like, all right, here's what I put on my doll and here's why I picked it, and isn't she cute, and have a great week. I'll see you back for more Dollitics next week. Cool? All right, let's get started with the topic of this week. All right, you ready for this week's topic? It's probably going to be this week's topic and next week's topic and maybe even the week after that. I'm sorry. But this bill, this one big beautiful bill, HR 1, the budget reconciliation bill, whatever you want to call it, has me very concerned. It has me extremely concerned because it was well thought out. They made a whole lot of changes. The ones that are going to be popular among the people, they announced right away, and those were set to take place right away. And then they've got some that are really going to hurt the people, and those are very strategically, and they just will be generally unpopular. Those are very strategically timed to take effect after everybody's gotten a chance to be reelected. So the propaganda machine, and I am calling it that because that's what it is out there saying you're going to get a tax break on this and you're getting this and seniors are getting this. Like I I called the Social Security Administration the other day, and it was like the Social Administration is celebrating the passage of the one big beautiful bill. I work as a sign language interpreter. I interpret a lot of calls to Social Security. I have been interpreting calls to Social Security since my 24-year-old was 3. 20 plus years of interpreting calls to Social Security. I've never heard something. They change their things up every so often, a couple times a year, like when the cost of living adjustment is coming out and when Medicare premiums are being announced, they change it throughout the year. I've never heard something feel so overtly political and like gross propaganda-ish, but it's there. I got an email. We joined AARP. I don't qualify yet, but apparently you don't have to be a senior to join. And when we got new phones, the person at AT&T said, oh, if you join, you're allowed to join. But if you become a member, you get some kind of discount on your phone stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. So we did that. So I got an email from AARP and it was like 4 ways that the one big beautiful bill is helping seniors. Like, I don't know if Trump just like his people just sent the press releases to all these people and said, put it out there. And they just did, because that's a thing. I'm not saying that what they are saying is untrue. What I'm saying is it is possible for 2 things to be true at the same time. And one of them is this bill contains some things that people are going to like. The other is this bill is going to hurt a lot of people and be bad for the planet and for clean energy and so many things. It's raising our debt. It's going to result in more people going hungry and more people losing healthcare, and all of that stuff is not slated to take place until after they have elections. So there's going to be this big period of time where all of this propaganda is being put out there, and that's all everybody's seeing, and that's all everybody's hearing, and that's what they're going to believe unless we counter it with facts. And I don't want you to just go out there. I don't want to go out there and be like, well, it's going to be really bad for the people. Those aren't facts. That's my opinion, right? So I want us to be armed with actual information, not even people's interpretations of the information. As much as possible, I'm just passing on information to you, like directly from the bill. Sometimes I did kind of have to chase a little bit, like this was taken, or like this thing was undone, but it was originally from this other bill. So I had to go back and read the text of that one. I've been working on this for days, and some of it, it's so muddy for me. I don't understand it, but I pulled things that I do mostly understand and can share with you. And I hope that we can just go section by section, me pulling out some of the more salient pieces that I think the public needs to know about this bill, and you can kind of make notes at different timestamps if you're like, ooh, I want to make sure that I educate people about that thing. I want to write down the section number that's in. I'm putting the whole actual bill text in the description. There will be lots of additional reading in the description. There always will be lots of additional reading and videos in the description for this series. So I want you to have resources. And hopefully you can, take notes of the sections and the pieces that you want to learn more about so that it doesn't have to be so overwhelming. Come back and review this periodically, but I'm really just trying to give a tool to get the word out. One other thing before I dive into it, my wife was like, well, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Probably somebody's already got this kind of analysis out there. And I'm sure that is true. What I found, though, was certain environmental groups had plain English recap of what they feel the environmental impacts are going to be. Certain food banks and people who work with impoverished populations had their thing, or people who are advocating for healthcare had their perspective. So there were like little bits and pieces, but they didn't cite sections. And I want us to be able to cite the actual source material. And it was kind of like piecemeal. And when I was trying to find it, I was getting really overwhelmed. And that's the whole point of this series, right? Is to help us have a place to go to get some information in more digestible chunks and not be so overwhelmed. So I stopped taking that approach. The other thing was, like I said last week, the bill started in the House, then went to the Senate, then went back to the House. And so there are lots of iterations. And at every point, there were people out there making commentary and analysis of the current version of the bill. So it's not like they took those down afterwards. So there are things where if you go and you look and it's like, oh, this thing about blocking states from regulating AI for the next 10 years, they're like, it's in there. It didn't make it in the final version. So it's important that we make our points and we do like public outreach and education based on the final version, or we make fools of ourselves, right? I mean, it's fine to say, and they even tried to get this in there. Thankfully, it didn't pass. They tried to put this in there, and thankfully, it didn't pass. But it is important that the things that we're saying are true and are happening are true and are happening. Right? Common sense, right? So I have a computer right here in front of me. I'm going to be looking down periodically. My plan is to go through sections. And I'll give you the section number. I will give you like probably the exact wording that it says and or my like paraphrasing of things or a little bit of extra information that I found, and then move on to the next section. The order of them doesn't entirely make sense to me, but it's the order that they come up in the bill. So that's the way I'm going to go, because if you pull up the document, it'll be easier for you to follow along. All right. And I'm just going to cut this when I feel like we're going to have about a 45-minute video, because I don't want them to go too long. So I appreciate your attention span. This series didn't get off to like a roaring success. It was like some people watched it. Those who watch appreciate, but feel free to share it. I really would like it to become a resource for more people. All right. So HR 1, Section 10101. This is related to food stamps, but before we even get to like the food stamps benefits, which is SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, I learned a little bit about the way that the benefit amounts are calculated. So obviously I always thought like, well, it's based on your income and it's based on your household size. Yes, true. But it's also based on these numbers that the USDA, or the Department of Agriculture, has come up with. They came up with 4 food plans. And so they look at a diet required to feed a family of 4, consisting of a man and a woman, ages 20 through 50, a child, ages 6 through 8, and a child, ages 9 through 11. Using the items and quantities of food described in the report of the Department of Agriculture entitled Thrifty Food Plan 2021. Okay, so I looked online, like, what is the Thrifty Food Plan? And they were like, there's Thrifty, Budget, something else, and Liberal. So it's basically like, you all have some more money so you can feed your family on the Liberal plan, but we are looking at what is the dirt cheapest, absolute cheapest that we can feed our families on, feed a family of 4 on. And that one, the lowest of the 4, is the basis for how food, like the food stamp or the SNAP benefit amount, is calculated. Yeah, it's thrifty, low cost, not budget. Thrifty, low cost, moderate, and liberal. See, I was smart enough to copy and paste it here, so I didn't have to memorize it. The thrifty one is the lowest. It represents a nutritious, practical, cost-effective diet prepared at home for a reference family, which is defined in law as an adult male and female, ages 20 to 50, and 2 children, ages 6 to 8 and 9 to 11. That is from the USDA's website, if you want to find that. So that amount determines the SNAP benefit amount. Section 10101 of the One Big Beautiful Bill says the cost of the thrifty plan shall be the basis for uniform allotments for all households, regardless of the actual composition of the household. So if it's a little bit confusing. If the household is smaller than 4 people, does that mean they still get the 4 people allotment? No, they do reduce it. If it's larger than 4 people, do they, like, let's say you have 8 people in your household, do they double it? Not exactly. Doubling it would mean it's 200% of that amount. No, it's 180%, which is weird to me because does that mean you just don't feed two of the children? Or does that mean you don't feed the two parents? Or who are you not feeding? Because if you said, we're basing it on the cheapest that you could possibly feed 4 people, and you have 8, and they don't double it, they give you 180%. That's the cheapest that you could feed 6 people, but your family has 8. Too bad, I guess. I don't know. I will also say I've never gone combed through a presidential, like a congressional budget like this before. So I am sure that when a Democrat was in charge, there were also all kinds of shady, crappy things. This is not about me saying Democrat versus Republican. I don't care. I'm not the world's biggest fan of the Democratic Party. This is just me, let's just analyze this bill and how it impacts Americans, party regardless, regardless of party. So here was something interesting. It said reevaluation, not earlier than October 1st, 2027. The secretary may reevaluate the market baskets of the Thrifty Food Plan based on current food prices, food composition data, consumption patterns, and dietary guidance. But then it says this thing, it's based on grocery prices from 2021. And they're saying not until 2027 can you even reevaluate those things. Food has increased in price already from 2021 and will probably continue, especially as we, kidnap all the migrant workers and immigrant workers, will probably continue to increase. But they're saying no earlier than October 1st of 2027, we can reevaluate that. But then it says cost neutrality. The secretary shall not increase the cost of the Thrifty Food Plan based on a reevaluation under this paragraph. So what's the point of letting them reevaluate just so they can go, yep, food costs more? Oh, so are you upping the benefit? No. We just said food costs more. Go hungry. Kids. So yeah, it sounds to me, and this is my interpretation. My degree is in applied linguistics, not in politics or policy or anything like that. It sounds like the secretary can reevaluate but can't increase the cost based on the reevaluation, which does not make any sense to me. Critics of this change, I read some critiques of it, and one of them said HR 1 is restricting future updates to the Thrifty Food Plan, which means food's going to get more expensive, but the Thrifty Food Plan won't go up. The amount won't go up. So benefits will buy them. They'll get the same benefit amount, but it won't buy them as much food. So, yeah, my understanding was kind of echoed by the critiques of people who actually do this for a living. All right, that's section 10101. Oh my God, this is going to take forever. We got this. We have nothing but time, right? All right, section 10102. Some of them are quick, others require more explanation. This is also about SNAP. SNAP work requirements are changing. So 55 and plus used to be exempt from the work requirements, but that was just changed to 65 and up. So they added a whole 10 years that yep, you still have to get out there and meet all the work requirements in order for you to have food. Because F you, not everybody deserves food, apparently. It also used to exclude parents with children who were 7 and up, and now it's once your kid hits 7, that is no excuse. They're in school, so therefore you should be able to be out there meeting all the job requirements. I hope they also have childcare because I can't do my job in the time that my kid is at school. I have to have before and after childcare, or shift my hours and have after school childcare, or before. I can't do my job in the hours that my child is at school. So whatever. Moving on. The work requirements for veterans, homeless individuals, and more will be, or the work requirement exemptions, I believe. The work requirement exemptions for homeless individuals, veterans, and more will also be phased out. These changes are going to jeopardize SNAP benefits for those who often need it most, older adults and parents with school-age children. The bill also contains changes to how SNAP benefits and the administrative costs of running the programs are paid for. You know what, if nothing else, if we only get through SNAP in this video, which we're not going to, we'll get through at least one more, but if we only got through SNAP, SNAP affects a lot of people. Probably people that you know and didn't even realize. Like, I'm not on SNAP now, but I have been in my life. So under current law, the administrative costs, like any program you run, you need people to run it, and you have to pay those people's salaries. You have to have computers to run it. You have to buy that equipment. You have to have electricity and air conditioning for the building, and you have to lease a building to have the people who administer the things. Like, there is a cost to administering a public safety, a social safety net like food stamps or SNAP. So that has currently been 50-50. Like, the federal government covers 50% of each state's cost of administering their plan, and the state covers 50%. And this bill is changing that structure to 25% by the federal government, and 75% of the burden is going to fall on states. Just for reference, because the analysis that I found was focused on my home state. So for Ohio, that says, according to the Federal Funds Information for States, FFIS, this would increase Ohio's administrative costs by $97.9 million. That extra 25% of the administrative fees of just running the program, it'll be an extra $97.9 million. And my state senators voted for it because they don't care. They don't care. Under current law, the federal government pays the entire portion of the SNAP benefit. So this is a big change, and I don't think people know about it because you got to read through the weeds in this document. Under the current law, the federal government pays the entire portion of the SNAP benefit. The legislation is saying that starting in fiscal year 2028, after elections, of course, starting in 2028, the federal share of the payments is going to be like a sliding scale. So what they're going to say is it depends on the state's payment error rate. If the error rate measures the accuracy of each state's eligibility and benefit determinations. So if a state determined that somebody was eligible and they're not, that's a mark against their error rate. If they determined that they were eligible, but they gave them too much in benefits or too little in benefits, all of that, if they determined that they weren't eligible and they were in fact eligible, all of that counts toward their error rate. And what they're saying is, if a state's payment error rate is below 6%, the federal government will cover 95% of the benefit payment and the state will pay 5%. They don't say, what if the state has no error rate? If a state were somehow miraculously 100% accurate, would you still cover 100%? No. So in the best case scenario, the federal government just offloaded 5% responsibility on every single state for the benefit amount for these, people in America that need to eat. So the best case scenario is your state gets stuck with a 5% bill. If you're, it says, according to the FFIS, the Federal Funds Information for States, only 6 states had error payments that would qualify them for the lowest cost of that. Based on 2023 error rates, like only 6 states out of 50 were in that 6% or lower. Or under, it doesn't say 6% or lower, like under 6%. If a state had like a 10.0000001% error rate, even if a percentage of that was like underpayments, they would still go from paying what they currently are, 0% of the SNAP benefit, to 25%. The savings that the president wants to tout in this case is really just shifting the burden from the federal government to states. And nobody's going to realize that unless you tell them until after 2028. Under the legislation's benefit cost sharing provisions. Ohio's best case scenario, if the state qualifies for the 5% match, and again, I'm using Ohio because that's what I found, will be an extra $158.9 million. On top of the administration costs that we're going to incur, $97.9 million. So now we're talking about $250 million, best case scenario, between the admin costs and if we get the best rate, right? If we had a higher than 10% error rate, which I don't know how many states have that, but the match would mean an extra $794 million for us as a state. And again, with the $97.9 million that we're going to incur in administration costs. So you're looking at close to $900 million extra that's going to be shifted from the federal government to the state of Ohio. One state, right? Oh, all the savings. It's just being shifted and you're not going to find out until later. The proposed changes create a fiscal environment where states are going to have to shift funds from other vital programs and other vital services, or they're going to have to choose how to cut SNAP benefits or restrict the number of people that are getting help. Then maybe they're going to raise the income level that you're allowed to make, or lower the income level that you're allowed to make, so that you have to be even poorer than poor, right, to be able to get the benefit. Or they could, depending on the state, they could decide they're going to cut it all together. And, how do people eat? We don't know. A lot of this isn't going into effect even until 2029 or 2030. So it is critical to educate people with proof from the bill itself, from the text, prior to elections. Like I said, because the propaganda machine is not sleeping, we've got a lot of work to do. Oh, yeah, the immigrant eligibility changes to SNAP included in the bill will mean that some individuals with a lawful immigration status will lose benefits. So people who are here on temporary protective status, for example, or asylum seekers or things like that, will not qualify anymore. Because the idea is it should be for U.S. citizens or permanent legal residents who are going to be here, who are guaranteed to be here for a long time. So anybody who has certain kinds of more temporary legal immigration status, too bad. It will include a lot of people who this crappy thing passed. A lot of people who will be excluded are people who have fled persecution, domestic violence survivors, and victims of sex and labor trafficking. Some of the most vulnerable people, and who are going to have a hard time replacing that food with some other service or some other program. Another fun anti-immigrant fact about this bill and its impact on SNAP is, let's say you're an immigrant and you have been deemed ineligible. You could even be here legally, but you've been deemed ineligible, right? If others in your household are eligible, they can go ahead and apply. Even though you won't be able to get the benefit, they'll still count your income, which I just think is crappy. And that might not be new. I don't know if that's a change. I just think it's crappy and more people should know about it. All right. We are going to move on from SNAP. We're on to section 10201. This is about the forestry department. They are taking back money already allotted to the department that it hadn't spent yet. So I want to give a quick my understanding of the term Recisions. It's money was allocated by a prior administration for certain things, and then the new president can go in and say, I want to take back any unused money from that thing, and I want to put it into other stuff. And if the senators and the representatives say, yeah, then that's what happens. To me, it feels like, let's say in June, I was feeling very generous and I gave you $100 gift card to American Girl. And then I checked in with you in July or August and I say, hey, have you spent your American Girl gift card on anything yet? And you go, yeah, I got a shirt and then I got something from the Last Chance outlet. But I still have $14 left. And I go, well, you must not need it. or you would have spent it. I'll take it back because I can do better stuff with it. Like, I've got stuff I can buy with it. But I gave it to you. Like, I don't understand that, but it is telling to see where the Recisions show up in this. Because I'll tell you, it's the environment. It's everything to do with the environment. It is like a giant face kick, like drop kick Mother Earth in the face. It is him trying really hard to undo every environmental thing that he possibly could. It's disgusting. Tell you where it's not. Military, all the money being taken out of clean energy incentives, energy efficiency incentives. We'll go over all of them. Maybe not in this video, maybe in the next one. I don't know, but it's gross. So yeah, so Recisions, taking back money that was previously allocated for the Department of Forestry, was section 10201. Section 30001, funding cap for the Consumer Financial Protections Bureau. So the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protections Bureau, was established under the 2010 Dodd-Frank Act, and its whole purpose is to police abuses in financial products and services. So your white-collar crime people, the people who are skirting things and abusing, and their financial products and services are super shady, they are supposed to investigate those things. This has been a frequent target of Republicans. Why? I mean, Republican leadership I get, but like, why everyday Republicans? I don't know if they are really the ones that are targeting it, because no consumer should be like, please protect me less. Please make it easier for people to scam me and defraud me. Like, no. The Trump administration has been locked in a legal battle because it's been trying to reduce the size of the CFPB. Like, Elon Musk, he went in and was like, I'm going to fire a bunch of you all so that you can't get through your workload. Totally on the up and up. Totally fair. So the National Treasurer Employees Union filed an injunction, and that blocked the plans to lay off a whole bunch of CFPB employees and blocked the plans to cancel agency contracts. So that's like still up in the air. And then legal experts are speculating that the new funding restrictions could bolster the administration's case for shrinking the Bureau. Like, look, we cut their funding. We couldn't just like outright lay them off. That didn't go as planned. So we can cut a bunch of their funding, and then they won't be able to afford to all those people, and they won't be able to afford to do the work that they need to do. So same thing, right? The cut amounts to a 46% decrease in the Bureau's funding ceiling. All right. Again, I'm putting the sections, I'm putting the text in the description. You are welcome to go down the rabbit holes, but I'm trying to keep it like not deep dive, not too superficial, somewhere in the middle. Section 30002 is another rescission. So taking back that gift card, taking back money already allocated for Green and Resilient Retrofit Program for multifamily housing. If it hasn't already been spent, yoink it back. So this is, let's say you've got an apartment building. You've got, maybe it's an older building. Maybe you have lots of them, maybe an entire like housing project. And you're like, we would like to be able to retrofit this because it's very energy inefficient. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for the residents because, it's not energy efficient, right? They're paying more in their energy bill because of this. So if people wanted to have some government support in forms of grants or loans or whatever, I'm not exactly sure about that, but they could use this Green and Resilient Retrofit Program for multifamily housing. But whatever money they hadn't spent yet, just because you hadn't spent it yet doesn't mean you didn't have plans for it. Like, let's say you gave me money and I was waiting, my gift card for AG, I was waiting until the spring release came out. Or I was waiting for them to release the holiday edition doll, right? Like, I knew what I wanted to spend this on. Like, and again, not all of this money has been taken back immediately. but it might be taken back. Like, hey, we're going to tell you that whatever hasn't been spent by this time, or if you hadn't already started the project, then we're going to take it back. The Recisions, like the details about each one, you're going to have to find in there because we'll never be done with this video otherwise. Section 40008 takes back money that was already allocated to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. That's going to be a whole separate topic, but the National Weather Service and the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration are two entities that help with weather data, weather prediction, weather warning systems, things like that. And when we talk about floods, when we talk about stuff in Texas, it'll probably be its own episode, just talking about the cuts that DOGE made and then the further cut that this is making by taking back allocated money. Section 40010, taking back money that was already allocated for alternative fuel and low emission aviation technology. So more energy efficient aviation, planes, things like that. Some lower emission and different kinds of fuel for looking into technology that would support that. Taking back that money. JK, friends. Who cares about this planet? Section 50302 removes a Biden-era regulation that lowers fees for renewable energy projects on federal lands. So energy projects can happen on certain federal lands. That's not new. During Biden's presidency, this regulation was added that says, hey, if it's an energy thing, but it's renewable, let's give a lower fee for using the land, like if they're leasing the land or whatever. And Trump has said that's unfairly favoring the development of wind and solar facilities. I don't know if it's unfairly, but I hope it's favoring wind and solar facilities over things that are, super destructive to our planet and accelerating climate change. Like, yes, I would like to promote and incentivize companies to, if a lower fee for the land that they were going to use for energy generation is going to entice people to go solar or wind instead, great. No, let's take that away. The rule was finalized only in 2024. And then it was basically an 80% cut in project fees for wind and solar energy developments on federal lands. The developers had been complaining for years, the fees are too high to draw investment. And so, okay, well then let's bring those fees down to encourage investment. And it was only finalized in 2024. And now it's already taken out as quickly as you can. I don't know if the agenda is simply revenge or if the agenda is don't bite the hand that feeds you, and whatever lobbyists sent the most money your way, that's who you make the laws favor. That's not new. Section 50305 approves up to $150 million to be used on celebrating America's 250th birthday. In and of itself, events to celebrate America's 250th birthday is whatever to me. But when you look at everything that has either been cut or adjusted and the impacts that this budget is going to have in terms of more families going hungry and more people losing health insurance, using a bunch of money for a party or parties that will probably be as lame as his big boy birthday parade, I think it's in poor taste, to put it kindly. I don't know that was the thing we should have prioritized. Section 50305. Let's find out, when I think about the Recisions, I think, okay, so where does the money come from? How do you fund your military parade for your birthday? When you're taking away, that one was covered elsewhere, but how do you fund this party? Well, you take some money away from other things. Maybe, for example, it's going to be funded by taking back money that was already allotted for providing direct loans to support the expansion of U.S. manufacturing capacity of low or zero emission vehicles. That's section 50305, by the way. So we would like U.S. car manufacturers to be able to produce low emission vehicles or even zero emission vehicles. So sometimes they might want some loans to do that. And there was a fund for that. And Trump said, nah, friends, whatever you haven't spent already, let's take it back. Recisions. Give me my gift card back. In 2022, the Inflation Reduction Act, IRA, allocated $3 billion for those kinds of loans to really encourage development of low emission or zero emission vehicle manufacturing plants in the United States. And that money was supposed to be available through September of 2028, but this new budget took back any unspent amount that had been allocated to help our nation's ability to manufacture low or zero emission vehicles. I'm going to pause here. Give me feedback. Are you up to me doing like a little bit longer videos so I could knock this one big, beautiful bill analysis out in like, maybe not 2, but like 3 videos? Because I'm worried it's going to go to 4. It was a 900-page document. And I do think it matters. Like, yes, we will get back to immigration because that's on my mind every single day. But I do think this matters in terms of people who do believe that Trump is helping them, that Trump cares about them. Being able to point out, like, what do you choose to do with the money? And what do you choose to show now versus what are you hiding until after elections will be important. If we, you and me, are trying to raise awareness and get more people to stop supporting him, then that's a really important point to cover, to know this bill a little bit more than most people do. So I'll pick it up again next week. And if you're open to a little bit longer, maybe like an hour, little over an hour videos, then I should be able to knock out the rest of it in 2 more. Maybe it'll only take 1. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but I still have a lot to go. So, all right. Next up, I want to share, because that was background information about that bill, and then a positive quote or a positive image about this, and then some action steps about it, and then some unrelated good news. For the positive image or quote, I'm leaning into petty. I don't care. So I was between showing you some video footage of MAGA supporters burning their MAGA hats and having a fit over Trump's refusal to release the Epstein files. Because, he kind of campaigned on that, among other things. And it's like, oh, there was no client list. The man was just trafficking people to no one. So that, I am really happy to see, because quite honestly, I was afraid that like all of his cult followers would be so deep in that they would just go, well, there must have been a good reason. Like, the Fuhrer is faultless. But they're ticked. So I was going to show that, but I'm just going to show you more general approval ratings. And I will put the link to this in the description if I can remember to do so. But if not, it's Nate Silver's website. It's just showing recent polls, approval polls from all different kinds of, all the resources are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 10-ish recent polls, and what the numbers are saying. It's low. I think that the propaganda about this bill is going to try to compete with the Epstein stuff that is like dragging it down, and immigration stuff is like, surprisingly, you don't get the sense of it from like the bots that are out there online and the horrible things that some individuals say, but most people not happy with it. Most people don't think this is being handled well. So I think that those are some things that potentially could work in our favor, but don't sit back and wait for it to happen, right? All right, now action steps. I don't have like printables or anything to give you this week, but I'm going to every week reiterate the 5Calls app. You download it, you put in your address, your zip code, so it can give you the contact information for your senators and your representative. And it has all kinds of issues. You can pick the ones that you're interested in calling about. You call them. The idea, 5 calls a day, about 5 minutes. I personally usually do my calls at night because I don't really feel like talking to them. All 3 of my rep and my senators are very staunch Republicans who are big Trump supporters, and I don't really want to have a conversation with their staff necessarily. I do sometimes call during the day, but usually I just leave messages. They have scripts. It's so easy. It tracks the things. It will tell you, you have made this many calls, and you can see when you've made them, and it just is nice to see, like, I am doing a thing, and you can do this thing every day, and you can encourage other people to do it. It's just download an app, make some phone calls, read the scripts, leave it on a message if you'd prefer. If you have anxiety about phone calls, like, stick to the script and call at night. Bada bing, bada boom. So that's one. If you are able to go to protests, I would encourage you, if you are at your local area and the people there likely have your senators, maybe they don't have your representative, depends, right? But they at least would have your senators, put their names on some signs. When I was at a protest, the last one that I was at, I saw at least 3 signs that had my representative and my senators by name, and then saying, voted to cut Medicaid, or voted to, take healthcare away from people. Like, those kinds of points that maybe people driving by aren't aware of. Get that information out there and put their names attached to it. Trump's not the only one who deserves the blame in this. He couldn't have gotten that thing passed without everybody going, right? So let those people also get their thank you at the polls, but you got to educate about the bill and then educate about what it's doing. Because if you go, they voted for it, what they're hearing right now is all good stuff. The average person is just hearing all good stuff about it, and they're not seeing any of the bad, and they're not going to until it's too late. So let them know from now until the election, whether that is in conversations that you have with people, that's an action step. Whether it is posting things online, that's an action step. Whether it is signs at a protest, that's an action step. Whether it is, the 5Calls app, that is an action step. If you have more that are related specifically to educating the general public about the bad things to come from this bill, drop them in the comments, because that's the focus of this week, right? Every week I'm going to try to make sure that you have enough action steps so you can at least pick one of them. And then the good news, so I follow this account, and I'm going to probably just post the account. A lot of the things that I'm sharing with you each week that are the good news come from this account or accounts similar. Sam Bentley has an account on Instagram that focuses on good news about sustainable living. So it's pretty niche, but it's a really nice thing to see and be reminded of the cool, creative, innovative things that people are doing. And I was just watching one recently that had like 3 or 4 things about combating microplastics. Like in Singapore, they discovered these worms that, because of their gut bacteria, they can eat plastic, like they can digest and break down microplastics. It doesn't hurt them, and it doesn't hurt the environment. So that's a cool thing. There were a couple of teenagers in the States who got $50,000 for inventing something that can filter out microplastics. And then Japan came up with researchers developed a biodegradable plastic that it dissolves in seawater, and it doesn't generate microplastics. Like, that's awesome. That's awesome. And again, I'm going to say it every week. I hope that ending on some really cool good news reminds you that there are always, always amazing, committed, passionate people who are working their asses off to try to make this world a better place to live in. And we can be inspired by them, and we can join their ranks in whatever capacity we can, right? We can and we should. All right. I hope you're doing well. Take care of yourselves. My ASL sign here says be kind. I found a great shirt, several great shirts at the thrift store the other day, so this was one of my new ones. All right, there's a picture of Jade in her prior outfit, and then I just dressed her in something totally different. So she is wearing, hopefully it won't fall off, hopefully she won't let go of her water bottle, but she is wearing parts of Maritza's meat outfit. Now, those of you in the know have been warned that unless you do a vinegar soak, the meat outfit pants, if you leave them on a doll for too long, can stain their legs. Well, once we knew that, I was like, oh, well, I just won't put them on anybody until I do a vinegar soak. And I still haven't done it. So they haven't been used. So I haven't put any element of her meat outfit on anybody since we got her, which is ridiculous. And I was like, I'm at least going to use parts of it because it's a pretty good meat outfit. So the fanny pack, which has nothing in it, her water bottle, this really cute shirt, it's sleeveless, obviously, and this kind of fancy schmancy raincoat are all part of Maritza's meat outfit. And I just put her hair in a low ponytail, gave her little wispies down here. And I think these are the leggings from the Western Chic outfit. And I have no idea. I feel like these shoes are not from the outfit. I'd have to go back and look. They feel like maybe they're part of a mix and match collection where they were just sold independently, but I don't know. All I know is that she looks cute, and someday I'll get around to doing the vinegar soak, but for now, I just wanted to make sure that I could leave her in this somewhere down here and that she wouldn't get stained. So there she is. And she says, go do your thing, hydrate, topple the patriarchy, smash fascism, all the good things. And I will see you next week on the weekend if you want to come back for this series. And then midweek, like Wednesday or Thursday, if you want to come back for some lighthearted Strictly Doll content.